Welcome back to the Grail Standard. I'm your host, Sir Vane. On this podcast, we talk about chivalry not as nostalgia, not as cosplay, and not as ideology, but as a moral standard, a way of measuring power, loyalty, strength, and responsibility in the real world. Today's episode is about something that should be obvious, but clearly isn't. Today we're going to talk about why Nazism and neo-Nazism are fundamentally opposed to Arthurian ethics, traditional conservatism, and the core civic values of the United States. And I want to be clear up front, this is not a partisan episode. This is a moral and historical one. Because Nazism survives today, not by telling the truth, but by stealing the language of virtue while rejecting virtue itself. Section 1. Chivalry versus Power Worship. Arthurian ethics, the moral world of King Arthur and the Round Table, are rooted in virtue ethics. That means strength exists to protect. Power is restrained by morality. Loyalty is conditional on justice. The innocent matter even when they are weak. A knight is not judged by how hard he strikes, but by who he refuses to strike. Nazism rejects this entirely. Under Nazism, power defines morality. Strength equals worth. Mercy is weakness. The vulnerable are disposable. That is not chivalry. That is predation with banners. If someone claims Nazism represents warrior values, they are confusing prowess with brutality, and those are not the same thing. Section 2. Social Darwinism, the core rot. At the heart of the Nazi ideology is social Darwinism, the belief that human life is a biological competition. Some people are born superior. Weakness deserves elimination. Compassion is degeneration. This worldview does not come from medieval tradition. It does not come from Christianity. It does not come from classical conservatism. It comes from materialism stripped of conscience. Arthurian ethics and Western moral thought more broadly hold the opposite view. Humans possess intrinsic dignity. Strength creates responsibility. Civilization exists to restrain nature, not imitate it. Social Darwinism doesn't produce order. It produces civilizational suicide. Section 3. Burkean conservatism versus Nazi revolution. This is where modern neo-Nazi rhetoric collapses completely. When I say Nazism is anti-conservative, I'm using the word conservative in its proper sense, the sense articulated by Edmund Burke, the father of modern conservatism. Burke believed society is an inheritance, not a blank slate. Tradition is accumulated moral wisdom. Power must be restrained by law, custom, and conscience, and change must be cautious and incremental. Nazism rejected all of this. It was revolutionary, not traditional, ideological, not inherited, centralized, not local, violent, not restrained. Burke warned explicitly about movements like this, movements that claim moral certainty, discard tradition, and demand total loyalty in pursuit of a perfected future. Nazism did not preserve Western civilization, it attacked every structure that restrained evil. Section 4. Individual rights, America versus the racial state. American civic values rest on one foundational idea. Rights exist before government. They are not granted by the state. They are not conditional on race. They are not revoked by usefulness. Nazism denies this outright. Under Nazism, the individual has no inherent rights. The state defines moral worth. Entire groups can be erased legally. You cannot reconcile Nazism with the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, or the Declaration of Independence. They are mutually exclusive worldviews. Anyone claiming otherwise is lying to themselves or to you. Section 5. Loyalty, obedience, and moral cowardice. Arthurian loyalty is conditional. A knight owes allegiance only so long as authority remains just. Opposing tyranny is not betrayal, it is duty. Nazism demands absolute obedience. Just following orders becomes a moral excuse. This is not honor, this is moral abdication. A society that teaches men to surrender conscience to power will always produce atrocities because conscience is the last line of defense. Section 6. Why neo-Nazism parasitizes virtue. Neo-Nazism does not create its own moral language, it steals. It borrows masculinity, chivalry, patriotism, and tradition, and then empties them of meaning. What it offers is rage without restraint, strength without responsibility, loyalty without justice. That is not conservatism, that is nihilism wearing armor. Nazism did not fail because it was true traditional. It failed because it rejected every tradition that restrained evil. Arthurian ethics teaches us that power without virtue is corruption. Burkean conservatism teaches us that civilization survives through restraint, inheritance, and humility. American civic values teach us that the individual matters, always. Any movement that denies the truths is not Western, not honorable, and not worthy of loyalty. That is the Grail Standard. If you found this episode valuable, consider subscribing, sharing it to someone who needs clarity instead of slogans, and holding yourself and others to a higher moral bar. I'm Sir Yvain, and until next time, choose virtue over power.